Recently in Florida, an SUV owner paid $1,100 for a pair of catalytic converters, only to discover later that the shop never installed them. Instead, they just spray painted the old ones to look new. Shocking, right? And scams like this aren't rare. AEEA reports that 50% of car owners have been pushed into repairs they didn't even need. Over a third were overcharged for parts or labor. But don't panic. In this video, I'm exposing the biggest Toyota dealership scams mechanics use to drain your wallet. Keep watching, because scam number 5 is the most dangerous one as it makes your car prone to accidents. Before I dive in, let me make one thing clear. I've been working on Toyotas for years. From Camrys and Corollas to Tacomas and 4Runners, I've seen just about every trick dealerships pull on unsuspecting drivers. Customers often come to me after a bad experience at a dealership, and the patterns are always the same: unnecessary repairs, inflated bills, and parts that don't match what's on the invoice. That's why I want to share these scams with you, so you can walk into any Toyota service center with confidence and never get taken advantage of. Scam number 1. Extra faults during an MOT. Here's a classic scam I've seen time and time again. Your Toyota is driving just fine, so you roll into the dealership or garage expecting your MOT to be a formality. But when the results come back, suddenly your car is loaded with extra faults. The advisor tells you it won't pass without hundreds of dollars worth of repairs. Some of these issues might be real, but many times they're exaggerated or completely made up. Why? Because every extra job means more money in their pocket. This is especially frustrating for Toyota owners, because these cars are built tough and often don't need half the repairs they claim. I've had customers show up at my shop after an MOT failure, only to discover that the so-called urgent repairs weren't needed at all. Sometimes it's a worn brake pad stretched into a full brake job, or a minor oil seat blown up into a major engine leak. So, how do you avoid falling for this trick? Start with trust. Ask family, friends, or coworkers for a mechanic they rely on. Ideally, someone who's familiar with Toyotas. If you're new to an area, check approved garage networks, or better yet, look for a council-run MOT test center. Since they don't usually carry out repairs themselves, they have no incentive to invent faults. Also, don't take a dealership's word at face value. Always question surprise repair lists, and when in doubt, get a second opinion before you hand over your money. Scam number 2. Blinding you with tech jargon. Another sneaky tactic I see all the time at Toyota dealerships is when service advisors try to blind you with science. Unless you've got a background in mechanics, chances are you don't fully understand every detail of how modern cars work, and shady dealerships know that. So, they'll deliberately throw around complicated jargon, phrases like valve train timing irregularities, or multi-point electronic diagnostics, to make the problem sound more serious than it is. The goal? To scare you into paying for repairs that may not even be necessary. I've had Toyota owners come to me in a panic after being told their car needed thousands in work, but when I inspected it, the issue was minor. Something as simple as a dirty air filter or a loose sensor. The dealership's fancy words were nothing more than smoke and mirror, so to protect yourself, don't be afraid to ask questions. A good mechanic should be able to explain what's wrong in simple terms. If they can't, or if they get frustrated when you press for clarity, walk away and get a second opinion. And here's a pro tip: brush up on the basics. You don't need to become a full-on mechanic, but knowing the difference between an oil dipstick and a coolant reservoir makes it much harder for a dodgy shop to trick you. Scam number 3. Overcharging for parts or labor. One of the most common scams Toyota owners face is being overcharged for parts or labor. Sure, every dealership marks up parts. They buy them wholesale and sell them to you for a profit. That's normal. But the problem is, when they jack up the price far beyond what's reasonable, banking on the fact that most drivers don't know what a part should really cost. Take something simple, like a Toyota Camry alternator. You could buy the same part online for around $250, but I've seen dealerships charge customers over $600 for it before adding labor. And speaking of labor, that's another place they stretch the bill. A brake pad replacement on a Corolla, for example, should only take about 2 hours, yet some shops will charge you for 4, making you pay double for time that was never spent. So, how do you protect yourself? Always compare part prices. Call your Toyota dealer's parts desk or do a quick online search to get a fair estimate. If the number on your bill looks way out of line, that's your cue to question it. And never agree to work without a written quote that includes both parts and labor. That way, you won't get blindsided when it's time to pay. Toyota parts are widely available and fairly priced. If a dealership is charging you luxury car prices for Corolla brakes or Camry alternators, it's time to walk away. If you made it this far, then consider liking this video, giving it a thumbs up, and subscribing to my channel. This helps me bring you more honest car advice. Scam number 4. Charging for parts that haven't been replaced. This scam really gets under my skin because it preys on trust. Unless you crawl under your Toyota or tear down the engine yourself, you can't always tell if a part has actually been replaced. And some dishonest mechanics know that. They'll bill you for brand new components, but either slip in cheaper used ones or worse, leave the old parts in place and charge you anyway. I've seen Toyota owners pay hundreds, even thousands for repairs that were never done. One customer came in after being charged for a brand new alternator, but when I checked, the alternator was the same old one, just cleaned up to look new. Another common trick: spray painting old parts so they shine like they just came out of the box. So protecting yourself is simple. Ask to see the parts that were replaced. A reputable garage will gladly toss the old components in your trunk and explain what went wrong. That's your proof that the job was done. But if a dealership refuses, gets defensive, or says the old parts disappeared, take that as a massive red flag. Honest mechanics are transparent. If you're paying for new Toyota parts, make sure you actually get them. Scam number 5. Counterfeit parts sold as genuine Toyota parts. Here's a dangerous scam most Toyota owners don't even think about: counterfeit parts. It's a huge problem in the auto world, and Toyota owners aren't immune. These parts are designed to look just like the real thing, packaged with fake Toyota logos, sometimes even painted and stamped to fool both drivers and mechanics. But underneath, they're cheap knockoffs, often made overseas with little to no quality control. According to the Automotive Anti-Counterfeiting Council, fake auto parts entering the US cost more than $3 billion every year. That means thousands of Toyotas could be running around with parts that aren't what the owner paid for. Now here's the scary part. Counterfeit parts don't just wear out faster, they can put your life at risk. Imagine counterfeit brake pads on your Toyota Highlander. They might stop fine during normal driving, but slam the brakes in an emergency and they can crumble, leaving you with no stopping power. Fake airbags? They might not deploy at all, or even worse, deploy improperly and injure you. Even something as simple as a counterfeit oil filter can clog early, starving your Corolla's engine of oil and causing catastrophic failure. I've seen customers pay full Toyota prices at a shady shop, only to find out later that the part was a cheap copy worth a fraction of what they were charged. The problem is, spotting counterfeit parts isn't easy. They're designed to fool you. That's why the best defense is knowing and trusting your source. If you're at a Toyota dealership, ask them directly where they source their part. Genuine Toyota parts usually come sealed and labeled from Toyota's own distribution. If a dealership or mechanic dodges your questions or refuses to show proof, that's a red flag. And remember this golden rule: if the price sounds too good to be true, it probably is. A set of Toyota brake pads usually runs around $150 to $200. If someone's offering you genuine pads for $50, you're probably buying fakes. Your Toyota was engineered to run on genuine parts built to exact standards. Don't let counterfeit copies sneak into your car. They won't just cost you money in the long run, they could put your safety and your family's safety on the line. Scam number 6. Unnecessary fluid flushes and add-on services. Here's a scam that really pads dealership profits: unnecessary fluid flushes and add-on services. When you bring your Toyota in for something simple, like an oil change or tire rotation, the service advisor might hit you with a long list of recommended flushes. Transmission flush, power steering flush, brake fluid flush, coolant flush. The list goes on. Now, here's the truth. Yes, fluids need to be changed, but not nearly as often as some dealerships claim. Toyota's own maintenance schedules are very clear. For example, many Toyota transmissions are sealed systems that don't need frequent flushing, just fluid changes at set intervals, usually 60,000 to 100,000 miles depending on the model. Yet, I've seen customers with a Corolla at 30,000 miles being told they urgently need a $300 transmission flush. Brake fluid? Yes, it absorbs moisture over time, but Toyota generally recommends replacing it every 2 to 3 years, not every single visit. And power steering. Most modern Toyotas don't even use hydraulic power steering anymore, it's electric. But shady dealerships still try to sell that flush to people who don't know the difference. So, how do you protect yourself? First, know your owner's manual. It's your best defense. Toyota puts the maintenance schedule right there, telling you exactly when fluids need to be serviced. If a dealership recommends a flush that isn't in your manual, question it. Second, don't be afraid to say no. You're not required to buy every service they suggest on the spot. And finally, get a second opinion from a trusted Toyota mechanic if you're unsure. These unnecessary flushes are nothing more than cash grabs. Stick to Toyota's maintenance schedule, and you'll keep your car running strong without paying for services you don't need. As an experienced auto expert, here is how you can avoid these scams. Always get a written estimate. Never agree to repairs without a written estimate. It should clearly list the cost of parts and labor, and most shops can't exceed that total by more than 10% without your approval. This protects you from surprise charges. Ask the right questions. Don't be afraid to press for details. If a mechanic says you need new brakes, ask for the pad thickness in millimeters. If they say your AC compressor is bad, ask for a breakdown of the parts and labor. A good shop will explain in simple terms and even show you proof. Trust your gut. If a technician gets defensive, refuses to answer questions, or won't show you what's wrong, that's a red flag. Move on to another shop before handing over your money. If you're enjoying this video, consider watching this one, where I've shared every dashboard warning light that annoys you the most.